My name is Daniel. In the winter of 2022, I took a job that I thought was going to be a paid vacation. I was hired to house-sit a multi-million-dollar property in the mountains of Utah. The owners told me it was the safest house in the state. They told me I would be alone. They were wrong. I was a broke college student at the time, and the offer was too good to refuse. $500 a night to watch a house for a wealthy tech CEO, Mr. Sterling, while he and his family went to Europe for Christmas. The house was intense. It was called the Apex. It was located 5 miles up a private road. The design was all floor-to-ceiling glass windows, beautiful during the day, but at night, the house turned into a fishbowl. You couldn't see out into the darkness, but anything in the darkness could see you perfectly. Mr. Sterling gave me the tour before he left. "The house is fully automated," he told me, handing me a tablet. "Lights, locks, temperature, it's all controlled by the central server in the basement. And don't worry about security. We have motion sensors on the perimeter." He left on December 20th. For the first 2 days, it was amazing. I played video games on the 80-inch TV, ate steaks from the freezer, and enjoyed the solitude. But on the afternoon of the 22nd, the storm hit. The forecast called it a historic blizzard. By 4 p.m., the private road was buried under 3 feet of snow. My car was completely snowed in. I was trapped, but I didn't mind. I had food, heat, and Wi-Fi. Around 7 p.m., the Wi-Fi cut out. I reset the router. Nothing. The storm must have knocked out the satellite dish. I was officially cut off. No internet, no cell service, just the landline phone in the kitchen. I decided to read a book in the main living room. This room was massive, with glass walls on 3 sides looking out into the forest. As I was reading, I heard a sound. I looked up. The window facing the back deck was pitch black. I waited. Maybe it was a bird or a clump of snow falling from the roof. Thump. It happened again, louder. I stood up and walked to the glass. I cupped my hands around my eyes to shield the glare from the fireplace. I couldn't see anything, just swirling white snow and black trees. "Hello?" I said, feeling stupid for talking to a window. I went to the kitchen and checked the smart home tablet. It showed the status of the house. Perimeter sensors, active. Motion detected, none. I relaxed. If someone was out there, the sensors would have tripped. I went back to reading. An hour passed. It was now 9 p.m. I went to the kitchen to get a glass of water. The kitchen had a view of the side yard where the garage was. The motion sensor floodlight on the garage was on. My heart skipped a beat. That light only turned on if something moved. I stared at the illuminated patch of snow. It was empty. No deer, no bear. But then I saw the footprints. Fresh, deep boot prints in the snow. They started at the edge of the woods and walked toward the garage. But they didn't stop at the garage door. They walked around the garage, toward the back of the house, toward the living room where I had been sitting. I ran to the living room. I killed the lights so I could see out. I scanned the deck. Nothing. I grabbed the landline phone. I needed to call the police. Even if they couldn't get up the driveway, they needed to know. I picked up the receiver. The line was dead. Panic started to set in. The storm hadn't taken out the phone lines. They were buried underground. Someone had cut them. I grabbed the longest knife I could find in the kitchen. I stood in the middle of the hallway, listening. The house was huge. It made noises. Pipes groaning, wood settling. Every sound sounded like a footstep. Then the smart home system spoke. "Front door, open." I spun around. The front door was at the end of a long hallway. I watched the heavy oak door slowly swing open. The wind howled, blowing snow into the foyer. "Who's there?" I screamed. I ran to the door and slammed it shut. I threw the deadbolt. I looked at the smart panel on the wall. The screen was glitching. Front door, open. Back door, open. Garage, open. The system was going haywire. I realized then that the intruder wasn't just brute forcing his way in. He knew the codes, or he had hacked the system. I needed to hide. The master bedroom was on the second floor. It had a heavy door and a separate lock. I sprinted up the stairs. As I reached the landing, I heard it. Someone was inside. I dove into the master bedroom and locked the door. I pushed a heavy dresser in front of it. I huddled in the corner of the room, holding the knife. I checked my cell phone again. No service. I listened. The footsteps downstairs were slow, deliberate. He wasn't rushing. He was exploring. I heard him open the fridge. I heard the sound of a glass bottle rolling on the floor. He was making himself at home. Then the footsteps started coming up the stairs. Step, step, step. They stopped right outside the bedroom door. I held my breath. I gripped the knife so hard my knuckles turned white. The doorknob slowly turned. It didn't open. "Daniel," a whisper from the other side. It was a man's voice, calm, almost friendly. "Open the door, Daniel. The heat is off downstairs. It's cold." I didn't answer. He said he knew I was in there. "I watched you enter the keypad code yesterday, 4429. He started punching the code into the electronic lock on the bedroom door. Beep, 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 beep. The lock clicked. The door pushed open, but the dresser blocked it. It only opened about 3 inches. Through the crack, I saw part of a face, one eye, and a smile. "That's not polite, Daniel." He started slamming his shoulder against the door. The dresser scraped across the floor. Screech! I knew I couldn't hold him back. I looked for an exit. The master bedroom had a balcony. We were on the second floor. It was a 20-foot drop, but there was a snowdrift below. I ran to the balcony doors. Locked. I grabbed a heavy lamp and smashed the glass. The cold air rushed in. The intruder heard the noise. He stopped banging on the door. "Don't do it, Daniel," he yelled. He sounded angry now. I climbed through the broken glass and jumped. I landed in 4 feet of powder. It knocked the wind out of me, but I didn't break anything. I scrambled up and ran. I didn't have a coat, just a sweater and jeans. The cold was agonizing instantly. I ran toward the garage. If I could get to the snowmobile I saw earlier, I could get down the mountain. I reached the garage side door. It was unlocked. I burst inside. The garage was warm, and sitting on the workbench was a setup I didn't expect. There were monitors, 4 of them. They were displaying camera feeds from inside the house. I walked closer. I saw the kitchen, the living room, the master bedroom. But there was one feed that confused me. It was a camera showing a small, cramped room with a mattress on the floor and food wrappers everywhere. I looked at the label on the screen. It said, "Sub-basement/wine cellar." Mr. Sterling hadn't mentioned a sub-basement. I looked at the desk. There were photos pinned to the wall, photos of the Sterling family, photos of the house being built, and photos of me arriving 2 days ago. The intruder hadn't broken in during the storm. He had been living in the sub-basement the entire time. I heard the front door of the house open. He was coming out to the garage. I didn't try to start the snowmobile. It would be too loud. I grabbed a shovel from the wall and hid behind the CEO's massive SUV. The garage door opened. The man walked in. He was holding a flashlight. He was tall, wearing dirty clothes that looked like expensive suits that had been ruined. "Daniel," he called out, "I just want to talk. I made coffee." He walked past the SUV. He had his back to me. I swung the shovel. I hit him in the back of the knees. He collapsed, screaming. I didn't stop. I hit him again in the shoulder to keep him down. I grabbed a coil of extension cord from the wall and tied his hands behind his back while he was dazed. I dragged him to the corner and tied him to the support beam. Then I found the emergency satellite phone in the SUV's glove box. I dialed 911. It took the police 3 hours to get up the mountain with a snowcat. I sat in the garage that whole time, holding the shovel,
watching him. He didn't scream. He just laughed, quietly. When the police finally arrived, they identified him. His name was Arthur Sterling. He wasn't a stranger. He was the brother of the owner, Mr. Sterling. Arthur had been the original architect of the house, but he had gone bankrupt and lost his mind years ago. The family had cut him off. Everyone thought he was homeless in California, but he hadn't been in California. He had built a secret room in the foundation of the house, a room not on the blueprints. He had been living there for 6 months, eating their food, watching them sleep. The reason he came up that night? He told the police he got jealous. He said, "Daniel was sitting in my chair, drinking my wine. I just wanted to remind him who the real master of the house is." Mr. Sterling, the owner, returned from Europe early. He was horrified. He had no idea his brother was living under his feet. They sealed the sub-basement with concrete. I got paid for the job. Mr. Sterling actually doubled the money as an apology, but I didn't spend it. I used it to pay for therapy. I live in a small apartment now, ground floor, no stairs, and definitely no glass walls. I keep the curtains drawn 24/7, because sometimes when the wind blows just right, I can still hear the sound of a boot crunching on snow, getting closer to the window.